The story starts with a pastry tournament in Japan, and the greatest pastries in the world created all sweets. The pastries were all talented and created majestic-looking sweets with their majestic skills. Then a talented pastry chef wanted to move his finished pieces to the judge, but he died by an accident caused by his own sweets. The man died, and he just wanted to create the greatest sweets in the world. Suddenly, he heard a voice of a god, and he got a new life as a baby boy named Pastry Mille Morteln. He was born as noble boy, and his father was able to cultivating the soil with the villagers. Followed we see Past. He is 9 years old now since he was reborn, and he trained sword training with his father. Past was raised by his father to become a great military hero. Also, he had 5 older sisters and a kind mother. Then he tried to dodge the attacks of his father, but he just couldn't think about making sweets. Past lost the fight and he was distracted for dreaming about sweets. Following this, head retainer Fitz appeared and told him the breakfast is prepared. So they stopped the fight and Fitz got some news for his boss. First he told Lord Casserole, the bean field will yield a significant harvest this year. The reason is Past give them good advice, and his father was proud of his son. Then his father was reported that 50 bandits are escaped and they are heading to the way of his property. Past didn't want to let them destroy his family's field. Also Fitz reported the bandits will arrive in 2 months and they tried to figure out a plan. Past knew his father was a low nobleman and his attack force isn't strong enough to win without losses on his side. So he wanted to help them, and Fitz saw the determined face of Past. Then Past decided to punish everyone who gets in the way of his dream to create a whole cake island like Big Mom from One Piece. Suddenly Fitz suggested Lord Casserole to involve his son in the fight against the bandits. So his father agreed to let his son fight because he knew Past is a genius. At breakfast, Agnes learned that Casserole wanted to put her son through the sanctification ceremony, and she was worried. And the ceremony is usual for 13 and 15 years old kids. First Agnes was worried, but she changed immediately her mood. So she asked Josie to help her to find a cute outfit for Past. He was afraid and asked his father to save him, but he ignored him. Following this, Past was dressed like a girl and said he wasn't one of the LGBTQI. His mother and sister treated Past since he was little as a dress-up doll. Back when his other older sister were around him, he suffered more. Then Past wished to be an adult, because he hated it to dress like a girl. In the followed days Past was exhausted, because his mother and sister used him as a dress-up doll. Then Agnes wished her son to have fun and to take care of himself. Also his friend said goodbye to Past and wishes him good luck. But Past just could think to eat a lot of sweets in the town. After that his father began to cast a strong spell, and he managed to teleport them both and disappeared. Everyone was amazed by Lord Casserole's magic power and admired him. Followed Past arrived in the capital with his father and he discovered new ingredients. He saw sugar and fruits of the isekai world. He immediately dreamed to bake sweets and was looking forward on his trip. Suddenly his father said he will grant him a wish if he can make it through the sanctification ceremony. Then he was shocked, because he found apples in the isekai world. His father explained them that they called banka, and they have a sour taste. Past was impressed, and tried to persuade his father to grow them on their fields. Casseroles thought his son will become a great landlord too. But he was wrong. The reason of his plan was to cook with the apples different sweets. Followed his father was proud on his son, but he didn't know. Past's dream was just to build a land full of sweets. Then Past met a priest, who looked like a panda, and he greeted his father. He asked Lord Casseroles how he can help him. He told Priest Panda he'd like his son to undergo his sanctification ceremony today. The panda priest was shocked, because Past is just a little boy. However, we see Josie was worried about her little brother, because she undergo the ceremony. Fitz replied she didn't need to worry about her little brother. After that we see Past tied up, and he thought the panda priest likes bondage plays. But he just wanted to let him drink the prime hydration tropical. Then he was left alone in the dark for many hours. The reason was Past was locked up, to find the enlightenment to awaken his power. Many days passed, and his father was worried about his beloved son. Panda Priest was worried too, because normally the magic power awaken after few hours. Then we see Past he just planned to make with the isekai apples some delicious sweets. He dreamed all the time to start baking, and wanted to be a god of sweets. Then he saw his land full of sweets and could feel the power of Isekai Buddha. As a result, he awakened his magic power, and his father was very happy to see his son. However, the priest Panda wanted to end the ceremony in a church. He read the script for Past receiving the power of a god. So Past waited to end the ceremony. Suddenly he sensed a weird feeling and he was able to see a scripture. So he received the power of Isekai Buddha and turned into a shiny Pokemon in human form. Then his father congratulated him for made it through the ceremony. Later his father was very grateful of Priest Panda's help, and he paid him for the service. Following this, Past tried to choose an apple, but all of them looked very beautiful. So he tried to find the perfect one and couldn't decide. After paying the apples with Apple Pay, he got 2 apples for free. Meanwhile, the panda priest wanted to betray Past's family. Then we see Past and he tasted his first isekai apple named Wonka. Before he went home, he told his father not to tell his sister and mother that they ate the best ones. In addition, he looked forward to bake some delicious apple pies with them. The next day, a village was attacked by a group of bandits. They stole all the villagers' food and planned to plunder the land of Past's family. Then we see the village of Past family, and they were building a wall against the bandits. Then Fitz reported to his lord about bandits, who plundered the Liptaver village. His father was shocked about the bad news, and he asked his son for a favor. Past got the task to report the leader of each village about the bad news. Followed, we see the villagers, and they prepared the defense line. Lord Casserole evaluated the situation and acted quick. As a result, they could create a strategy to lure the bandits to a specific place. Past analyzed quickly the situation and knew the most of the fighters were ordinary villagers. Then his friends appeared, and they wanted to help Past. His friends said they will become the future retainers of him. So he asked his friend a favor to gather some rocks outside of the village. Followed, Lumi and Marka were ready to collect rocks for Past. They both collected many rocks until the evening. Suddenly Lumi asked Marka if he knew what kind of magic Past had received. Marka didn't know something because he always practicing alone. Followed, Marka heard some voice, and he discovered the bandits. The both kids immediately warned the villagers. Marka's father told the kids to stay with Past. Meanwhile, Past was with his family, but the villager were scared. Casserole and Fitz calmed the villagers down, and he said they need to fight. He motivated all villagers, and he could change the mood. So all were ready to fight with his family, and were ready for the battle. Fitz was worried, and they discussed the plan. Then they asked about Past's opinion, and he suggested to find out the extent of the enemy's supplies and forces. Past realized it's the same like making sweets, and he was deep in thought. Following this, his father wanted to start his battle, and he told Past to protect the village. Casserole and his best friend were on the way to get more information about the bandit group. Then Past wanted also help his father, and planned some countermeasures against the enemies. He wanted to prepare some fire arrows to attack the bandits, but Marka was worried if they hit his father too. But Past was sure his father can manage to dodge the arrows. As a result, they wanted to help Casserole, and Past trusted his friends with the important task. Suddenly 2 little girls were scared, but Josie and Agnes calmed down the girls. Then Agnes told his son to take care of himself and wished him good luck. Afterwards, Past planned to start his counterattack, who support his father in the battle. Meanwhile, Fitz stopped and he activated his magic eye to find the bandits. He was able to use the eye of Neji because he was reincarnated in Fitz, so he could see all the bandits with his magical eye. He reported the bad news because they were a gang of ex-cavalry and got 5 horses. Also, they were more bandits than expected. Casserole and Fitz planned to start attacking the enemies first. The leader of the bandits got a report. Out of nowhere, Lord Casserole and Fitz appeared. They immediately attacked the bandits group and they were able to injure many of them. The leader of the bandits ordered them all to fight back, but Casserole and Fitz weren't feared, and they wanted to lure the bandits into a trap. The bandits were hunting them, and the bandit boss was angry. So the enemies took the bait, and they all were on the way to the village. After that, Sir Glaggery heard the sounds of the horses. He immediately shot a fire arrow to the sky for alarming the other retainers. Casserole understood Past got the idea for showing him the way home with a fire arrow. Suddenly Past was reported about his father being pursued by bandits. As a result, he ordered his friends to prepare the attack against the bandits. Followed, Casserole and Fitz lured the bandits to the village. After that, Past showed the signal to start the attack, and he could manage to hurt many of the enemies. Past instantly ordered to attack them again, and they all threw rocks at the enemies. Then we see Past a few days before. He was explaining the villager about his strategy. The adults wasn't sure if the children can manage the attack, but they didn't believe in the plan. So Past tried to explain the advantage of his plan, and he was able to convince all villagers with his plan. Back in the present, Past could support his father, and his father was proud of his son. The bandits struggled by the battle, but the leader of the bandits didn't give up. Suddenly, he jumped over the river and he was on his way to the village. He could manage to climb up the wall and defeated one villager. Followed, he attacked many villagers and threatened them to killing all. Followed, the knights of Past's family fought against the bandits. Suddenly, the children of the village also supported the villager by fighting. The bandit boss was angry, targeted a little boy. Past could manage to save the boy, and he sacrificed himself. The bandit boss used Past as a hostage, but he saw an injured man on the ground. Suddenly, Past cast his unique spell, and he was able to defeating many bandits. Also, he managed to transfer the pain of the injured man to the bandit boss. His face was burned and he wanted to know what was happening, so Past said he can replicate everything with his magic power. In the next morning, Agnes was reported that they have won the battle, but Past is injured on his arm. She was worried, and the villager told her it's just a scratch. Then we see Past. He was helping his father to sharing the food with the villagers. Later, the bandits were arrested and Lord Casserole's planned to ship them off to the county of Ritas. Following this, Glagorus received a reward for the great contribution to frontline defense. Next, Marka and Lumina were called to get a reward for helping Past by his defense plan. Later, they got a heavy reward, and Past helped his best friends. He praised them both for their big help, and he was happy to have them as friends. Afterwards, they carried the reward to Maka's home. His mother didn't care about the reward, she was just happy that her son made it home safely. Also, she asked if Marka caused Past trouble, but he replied his both best friends were a big support in the fight. Later, Lumina's grandpa was very happy to heard about his grandchild's great work. However, many villagers wanted to celebrate with Lumina's family, and they invited Past too. Marka asked if he is allowed to drink, but they just allowed him to drink milk, so they celebrated the victory together, and all villagers were praising the children's ambush. Suddenly, Past started daydreaming, because he planned to bake with the delicious ingredients of his village sweets. Meanwhile, his friends were sneaking outside to play. Then Marka got the idea to see the arrested bandits, because they both will become Past future retainers. Later on, they asked to see the bandits, but the guardians told the both kids to play in another place. Marka got a stupid idea and he hid with Lumina behind a bush. Suddenly he threw rocks and he was able to distract the guardians. They both entered the barn and wanted to see the punishment of the bandits. Suddenly, the bandits' boss told Marka he will got the death penalty. He said, before he die, he want to teach Marka some sword skills combined with magic. Marka wanted to become a great help for Past as his future retainer. Following this, the bandit boss told Marka he should come closer, because he wanted to whisper him the secret words for activating a strong spell. As a result, the bandit boss could free himself, and he attacked Lumina. Marka was worried because Lumina was badly injured. Then a guardian appeared, and the bandit boss used Marka as his hostage. Another guardian reported Lumina's grandpa and Past that a bandit had freed himself. Meanwhile, the bandit boss was surrounded by many retainers, but he tried to escape. He used Marka as his hostage and he was able to flee with a horse. However, Past arrived and he saw his injured friend Lumi. He told a guardian to stop her bleeding and he wanted to rescue Marka. So Past was riding a horse and he tried to figure out a strategy to win against the bandit boss. Followed, his father wanted to support his son because he was worried. But Fitz stopped him, and he wanted to go saving the kids. He told his best friend to protect the village because he is the Lord. Then we see the bandit boss and his stolen horse tripped. Followed by Past appeared in time and he was ready for the battle. The bandit boss was angry. He knew Past set this stupid little trap. Thereafter, Past recalls the words of his father to hold his sword tight. Past rushed to his enemy and he attacked the bandit boss. But Past was overwhelmed by the strength of the bandit. Marka told Past to run away, but he replied, he'll never will abandon his best friend. So the bandit boss launched an attack, and he used his finisher move. Meanwhile, Fitz tried to find the boys, but he wasn't managed to locate them. Later, he found the broken sword of Past, and he thought Past was murdered by the bandit. In the evening, Fitz entered Past home and he's shocked by seeing Past alive. Followed, Casserole told Fitz, he and Marka didn't return home not long ago. Casserole asked his son to explain himself. So Past explained his father he just replicated the magic ability of his father short time before. As a result, he managed to escape safely with Marka. After the story, Past was forbidden from telling someone about his magic power to replicate someone's magic ability. Past was scolded, because Past could still teleport inside of a rock. In the night, Casserole was worried. He knew his son got an overpowered magic ability. In the following days, Marka was sad. He knew it was his fault. Past managed to cheer up his friend and he said Lumina will be happy to see them both. So they visited Lumina, who was very happy to see her best friends. Afterwards, Past went to the kitchen and he was happy to bake delicious sweets to bringing smiles to faces. Past started to mix up the ingredients and he wanted to make delicious sweets. Meanwhile, Marka was scared if Lumina didn't forgive him for his stupid idea. Past baked a delicious apple pie and he wanted to serve the apple pie his friends. Then we see Marka, he said sorry, but Lumina wasn't angry at him. So she said he didn't need to say sorry and they smelled something delicious. Followed, Past served his friends the delicious apple pie and they were very grateful. So they tried the delicious apple pie of Past and they said it's very tasty. In addition, Past showed them the sour apples, which he used to bake the sweet apple pies. He told them about fruits and said flavor and persons are the same. As a result, Marka was cheered up and Past changed the mood. Suddenly, Lumina's father appeared behind Past and Marka was scared. But Glagari wasn't angry and he said Marka needs to marry his daughter now as compensation. Lumina also agreed about the decision and Past just laughed. After that, Lumina offered his father a piece of the apple pie and she decided to eat the piece of Marka too. She said she is now his future fiancé, and Past looked forward to enjoy the time with his friends. A few weeks later, Lord Casserole told Fitz they have no money. Past knew the reasons they having no money left was caused by the battle against the bandits. All money was used to rebuilding the villages and buying food for all villagers. Then Casserole was worried because the bandit boss escaped. Fitz reported they have secured 200 gold coins for his head and nobody would lend them money now. Suddenly, Past wondered why his father didn't ask his parents for help. He learned Agnes and his father cut ties with their parents long time ago. The reason his father's land was even more barren as now, and both of their parents didn't accepted the marriage. So Past learned the reasons why they can't ask his grandparents for help. Following this, Marka and Lumina learned about the situation of Past's family. Past was worried about Lumi and asked how she is healing up. She replied, "She is healing up well, but the pain's not totally gone." Then Past made fun of his friend and said they make a cute couple. Afterwards, they tried to find a solution for the money problem of his family. So Lumina suggested him to sell apple pies in the town. He told baking apple pies wouldn't solve the money problems. Suddenly, Marka suggested to teach the townspeople magic. Lumina made fun of her fiancé and she explained to Marka it doesn't work. In addition, she called him stupid and made him very furious. Past said he should stop flirting and Lumina thinks magic is still be the key for solving the problem. She asked Past to teach them a spell of him, and he recalled the memories to bake sweets with his friends in his previous life. So Past told them to draw any picture in the dirt. Past learned he draw a dragon, but his picture just looked like a worm with 2 legs. Meanwhile, Lumi drawed an apple with an baked apple pie. Marka said she sucks at drawing and they both started arguing. After that, Past cast his replicate spell, and he transferred the picture to their hands. His friends were amazed by his power to replicate the picture on their hands. Then Lumina learned the pictures disappear after 3 days. Lumina got an idea and said he could copy the drawings on the ground. As a result, Past got a good idea and he was grateful and called Lumina a genius. She blushed and he apologized for having so much riz. Then we see Agnes, and she tried to ask for help by her parents, but they refused. Suddenly Past appeared and got a great idea to make money with her sister. Josie is 13 years old now, and she is just about marrying age. So Past suggested his father to use his teleporting spell for introduce everyone Josie. Casserole and Agnes understood the travel for finding a fiancé is very danger. As a result, he suggested them an alternative solution for the problem. He replicated the face of his mother into a piece of wood. So Rudy invented an isekai tinder for helping the noble boys to find a future wife. Past suggested his parents to sell the picture, because the nobles didn't need to travel into the capital for seeing Josie in real life. Casserole was impressed by his son's invented isekai tinder. Suddenly his mother asked him to invent a Photoshop skill to erase something on the picture. In the followed days, Past and his dad were visiting the county of Reitz to get some compensation. Millie Reedus suspected that the Mortelln family would come to take her to task for failing to crush the bandit threat. Then Past and his dad entered the room, and Millie greeted them and introduced herself to Past's family. Following this, Casserole introduced himself, and Past noticed Millie is very smart. Millie invited them to join her for tea, and Casserole accepted. Then Casserole praised about the tasty flavor and aroma of the tea. Past wanted to try a cookie and he wanted to taste his first isekai cookie. As a result, he realized the cookie didn't taste very good, because he is a pro pastry. Afterwards, Millie praised Casserole to be a good leader, and asked about his secrets. Casserole told his son's advice was the reason why his land can support the villager so well. Millie was surprised, and Casserole understood that his son is something special. Also, he was very proud to have Past as his son. Suddenly Past switched the subject and he lied to get more compensation. Millie was angry and didn't expect Casserole's son would be a genius. Followed, he told Millie about the battle against the bandits. She acted like she didn't know about the bandits, and that she was fault about the damage on the Morton family's land. But Past told her his family could hand the bandits directly over to the royal family. Millie tried to outsmart Past, but he wasn't a stupid little kid. So Past told her the bandits claimed they moved on after shaking off pursuit in her domain. Millie replied she didn't know about the case and asked if he had some proofs. Suddenly Casserole showed Millie a sword of the bandits, which carried the family crest of Millie. Millie knew Past outsmarted her, and she knew she is in big trouble. Past asked for compensation and told her they wouldn't report the case to the royal family. Following this, Past made a deal with Millie, and he demanded a large amount of money. So she offered Past's family 150 gold coins as compensation. Millie was surprised that Past is a boy who told his parents to make homework and not otherwise. Later, Millie admitted her defeat and she got a liking of Past. So she asked Past about his name and she had a question for Past. She noticed Past's weird reaction by tasting her cookies. So Past said her tea is tasty, but the cookies should be less sweet. His father was angry at his son for being so cheeky, and he was punished. Casserole apologized for his son's cheeky behavior and the words about her sweets. After that, he created a gift for Millie and copied her face on a scarf. She was delighted with his gift and was happy to meet such an energetic boy like Past. In the following weeks, we see Past and his dad invited to a banquet of Duke Cadlick. Casserole congratulated him that his eldest heir coming of age. Then Duke Padlock flattered to hear his compliments and he introduced Casserole his grandson Squale. Cadlick said to his grandson he should relax and said Squale admires Casserole and he idolized him. Following this, Past introduced himself and he was able to impress the Duke with his good manners. However, Past said it's an honor to meet Squale. Squale flattered by his compliments and he was very nervous. Duke Cadlick got a liking on Past and heard he come of age as well. So Past said he was blessed with the use of magic, and all guests were impressed by Past's young age. Past said he was fortunate to be blessed with magic at a young age. After this, he began to cast his spell, and he impressed everyone. So Past managed to show the Duke his spell, and he was delighted to see his drawing spell. Suddenly Past said it's a gift for Lord Squale, because he met Margrave Hubarek. As a result, Past said he replicated a picture of Lady Petra, who was the third daughter of the Margrave Hubarek family. Casserole explained the Duke about Past's isekai Tinder. Meanwhile, Squale was amazed by Petra's charming picture, and Past told him about the birthday party of Petra next month. As a result, Squale accepted to visit her birthday party and his grandfather was shocked. He understood Past is a genius who tried to arrange a marriage. He asked Square how he intend to travel there. Past replied he didn't need to be worried because his father is willing to assist with his teleportation spell. After that, Past talked with Duke Cadlick and he said he thinks Lord Hubarek had ulterior motives. Past explained him he believes he planned to use the awesome military power of Cadlick family to end the feuding forever. Following this, he told everyone he will attend the festivities as well. Past was happy that his plan worked and Duke Cadlick trusted Casserole to assist his family. Later, Squale asked Past if he want to become a friend of him. Followed, Squale asked him for advice to find a birthday gift for Lady Petra. Past mentioned she likes sweets because last time he presented her with handmade cookies. Then Squale learned Past is a skilled pastry who loves to making sweets. Past was distracted and asked him to forgive him. Then he thought Squale wants to ask him to make delicious sweets for the birthday of Petra. But he just wants to ask Past if he can alter the portrait and make the picture more sensuality. So Past was surprised that men are all the same in any age and any world. A few days later we see how the citizens repaired the broken buildings. Then we see Fitz, who told his friend that the provision of food and firewood among the citizens is going smoothly. Suddenly Past entered the room and asked if they are talking about sweets. Then Past told his father the letter came for him and one of them is from Duke Cadlick. Casserole read the letters and said that it says they will receive 20,000 silver coins. So Past was happy to hear that they both get engaged. Then Past remembered the exhausting day with Petra because his father only accepted the best photo of his daughter. Afterwards, Casserole told them they got a job as the security guard of Lady Petra. The reason for this is a lot of people out there will be against the marriage because they will cause disadvantage for some nobles. Past suspected that the church will be a problem, and his father agreed. He replied he can protect Lady Petra with his teleportation spell, but they didn't know how strong the enemies are. Then Fitz said recruiters from the capital could infiltrate them. Past understood the job is very important for his future plan to build a land full of sweets. Suddenly, he got an idea to keep Lady Petra safe, so he suggested his father to find a place which is surrounded by thick walls without windows or an entry. Fitz and Casserole understood his idea to use the room of the sanctification ceremony. After that, Past gave his father a receipt for materials that he had bought by a merchant. Casserole lectured his son, and he saw Past use a huge amount of money to buy sugar. Past spent all the money without telling his father, and was punished. On the next morning they visited Lord Huberek to escorting his daughter. Followed Lord Huberek thanked Past because the engagement came about through him. Then Casserole told them they will escorting them to the capital. Petra greeted them and said Past's cookies were last time very delicious. Suddenly, he began to speak about sweets, and he didn't stop. After that, he joined them on the carriage and greeted Liko too. She was a little bit sad, and Petra apologized for the behavior of her little sister. On the way to the sanctification ceremony, Lord Huberek was worried, and he was counting on Past's family to protect Petra. Arriving in the town, Casserole and Petra's father checked if there were no suspicious people outside. Suddenly, enemies attacked them, and Casserole fought with Huberek against the enemies. One of the criminals entered the carriage and planned to murder Petra, but Past protected the girls and he was able to withstand the strong attacks. Suddenly, another assassin appeared, but Casserole saved his son in time. As a result, they both defeated the criminals and they forced the criminals to retreat. After that, Past saw the girl's scared face, and they went inside of the basement. So they went into the basement to protect Petra. Followed Past proved he is a very sweet boy, who tried to calm down Liko because she was very scared. She blushed, and Past got so much riz that Liko got instantly a crush on him. Then we learned that she was sad because she was always comparing herself to her twin sister. Also, she was ashamed that she acted so rude a short time before. Later they arrived and Past explained they will use his father's teleportation spell. After entering the hidden room, they hold the hands together, and Casserole began to cast his teleportation spell. Arrived in the church, Past welcomed them to the sanctification ceremony. In the meantime, the nobleman Armir hired a group of mercenaries to kidnap a woman. He offered the group 10 gold coins, and almost all of them wanted to accept the job. So he said they should bring him Petra, because she is soon be married into Duke Cadlec's family. Before they left, the nobleman Armir told them to do the job correctly. After the mercenaries left the house, they found the mission suspicious. The leader said Amir is likely after two things. First, to disgrace House Cadlec, because they would be humiliated. The second reason is Amir wants to retake his noble title. Later we see many guards and nobles in front of the church. Past was impressed and said a poor knight's household like theirs could never amass a force like this. Following we see Petra, who was nervous to think about her engagement. Suddenly Past showed up and Petra gushed about her future husband. So Past was very proud to invented the isekai tinder and compared it with making sweets. Afterwards Fitz reported Casserole that even the lords of remote fief have made their way here. Casserole had an important mission for his son and asked Past to help Lady Liko to relax in a guest room. Followed Fitz wished him good luck and said he should rising the whole guest room, so Past asked Liko to rest with him in the guest room. Fitz was proud of Past and teased him a little bit. Then Casserole got angry and told his friend not to put strange ideas into his son's head. After that, we see Lord Amir, who sipped wine and waiting for his revenge. Followed the staff officer Whis of the Central Army appeared, who was there to escort Petra to the church. Casserole said, once the reception for the engagement is over, all that remains is escorting them back to their home territory. But Casserole was still concerned. Fitz said he is more worried about Past, and said a misunderstanding might occur. So Casserole replied he isn't worried, because they got a formidable chaperone with them. Past wondered why Maid Carla joined them. She replied her duty is to protect Liko's ladyship, and Past tried to invite her to sit. Then Past tried to change the mood, but he failed, and the whole situation became awkward. Suddenly Past had a bad feeling, and heard something outside. Following this, the ground below them started to shine. A big hole appeared. Past and Liko disappeared into the dark hole. After that, Casserole arrived, and he was reported that his son and Liko disappeared in the hole. Casserole was worried, and he commanded Fitz to explain the situation to the Margrave and the others. Following this, Casserole jumped into the hole to find his son. Then we see Past waking up and they were kidnapped by the mercenaries. Past wondered if the man caused the whole. Suddenly he understood why they were kidnapped. The man threatened Past to not do a wrong move, and Past decided to protect Liko with his life. Followed Casserole was outside of the tunnel, and he looked around, but he couldn't find a trace of his son. Meanwhile, Liko woke up and Past explained about the situation. She almost cried, but Past calmed her down. A mercenary made fun of Past, but he tried to figure out what they had planned. Followed Past act like a crybaby and lured him to a trap, so he said they can trade them against 200 gold coins. Liko didn't understood that Past just tried to trick the man and he almost got him, but his try to trap the man failed, and Past learned a noble man was behind everything. So Past recalled that he saw a suspicious noble name a few days ago. Then he realized the nobleman Amir is the culprit, and he used his magic power to send a message to his father. Followed we saw Fitz reporting that the Margrave can't spare any men now because he has to prioritize Petra's engagement reception. Carla was worried about Liko, and she asked why Casserole is unconcerned. Suddenly, the message of Past was teleported to his father and he learned about the culprit. As a result, he was ready to rescue his son and command his retailers to be ready for the battle. Fitz understood his friends is worried about his son, but he told Casserole to cast his teleportation spell and send him to call reinforcement. Later, the boss of the criminals appeared, who was very angry at Liko. He tried to touch her and Past protected her, but as a result he was injured. The reason of the reaction of the mercenary leader was that they kidnapped the wrong sister. Meanwhile, the engagement of Squale and Petra are going off at the Duke's house. Past understood their plan was to kidnap Petra. Suddenly the mercenary planned to cut Liko into many small pieces. In the last moment, Past saved her and he freed himself. He told Liko that she didn't need to worry and he will protect her with all of his power. Then Past said he will defeat him and the mercenary just looked down at Past. Following this, the mercenary leader understood that Past wasn't an ordinary little boy, because he defeated his strongest lieutenant. Suddenly they heard some voice outside, and Past knew the reinforcements of his father appeared. So Past told Liko they will be safe and help has arrived. The mercenary leader thought he can escape, but Casserole appeared and he was surrounded. Then the man knew he got no chance against his father and Past. Past said there is no way out, but the man cast a spell to create a hole in the ground. As a result, he managed to escape and Casserole stopped his son to follow the criminal. Casserole was glad that his son is unharmed and said that he was worried. Followed Liko was freed by Glagari and Fitz showed up as well. The retainers of Liko's family was glad that Liko is fine and he returned to the family. Liko couldn't thank Past and he said goodbye. Later, Past learned about the culprit and Fitz reported that Duke Armire will be arrested for kidnapping Liko. Also Fitz said they found evidence that he leaked information to the enemy. Suddenly a knight showed up. Casserole said he needs to investigate something, and he sent Fitz to handle the report. Following this, Casserole asked his son, where did he think that man got off to? Past replied, he didn't believe the man escaped. Past suspected that he hadn't enough power to go far, and knew they had their forces surrounded the area. Then they rushed back to the room to arrest the criminal. The enemy was impressed because Past saw through everything and he decided to fight against Past and his father. So Past told his father he will handle it and he was sure to win against the enemy. Past learned the enemy's name is Strudel, and Strudel knew that he needs to fight against Past serious. Strudel attacked Past and his father was worried, but Past dodged the attack. Also, he knocked Strudel out and Casserole was impressed by his overpowered son. After the fight, Casserole noticed something on the sword of Strudel. Past said he used his magic power and gave his opponent a broken sword. Suddenly, Past got worried because he realized that his dream can't come true at this rate. A month later, we see the official engagement party of Petra and Squale. Past was glad that they both looked happy, and Duke Cadlec showed up. Casserole congratulated his family, and he thanked Past because he protected his granddaughter-in-law. Past was very humble, and they hoped that the both will have a bright future. Past said they are a cute couple, and Duke Cadlec thanked him again because the wedding wouldn't have happened without him. Suddenly, Past told Duke Cadlec that he had noticed some curious aspects of the kidnapping incident. He told that the attack of the bandits seemed extremely prepared, but he wondered why they made the mistake of kidnapping the wrong target. Past found the case very questionable and didn't believe it was all coincidence. As a result, he came to the conclusion that a third party was behind it, pursuing its own goals. Duke Cadlec was surprised by Past's suspicions about a third party, and he asked Past who he suspected to be the mastermind. So Duke Cadneck asked if Past suspected he was the culprit behind the incident. Past replied certainly not, and that he is just a little kid with a wild imagination. Then Casserole stopped his son, and he changed the topic. Past used his chance and asked Duke Cadneck for more money. However, Duke Cadneck understood that he was tricked by Past, and he got him. Afterwards, Lord Cadneck admitted that he was the mastermind behind the incident and released false information that led to the kidnapping. He said he had no intention of putting the two girls in danger and was ashamed of his out-of-control plan. So he admitted that he arranged the entire affair and said he will henceforth reflect on his conduct. After that, Lord Huberek appeared and he thanked Past for saving his daughter. Past thought he will receive money as his reward, but he was wrong. So Huberek asked him if his heart was already set on anyone. Casserole understood Lord Huberek's plan, and he couldn't believe that his smart son fall for his trick. As a result, Past was offered to marry his daughter Liko, and he was confused. Past said he certainly is honored, but he surely is unworthy. But Huberek didn't let it slide, and Past was forced to accept the engagement with Liko. He knew he couldn't escape, and he accepted the offer to marry Liko someday. However, Past hoped his father will save him, but he allowed Past to marry Lord Huberek's daughter. Duke Cadneck was happy to get the chance to tease Past and informed all the guests about the engagement. Following this, Past didn't know what happened. After that, Liko thanked him that he saved her, and Past understood that he had just fallen in love with her. Then Huberek announced to everyone that his two daughters found a future husband that day. Duke Cadneck was also happy to have Past as part of his family, and they toasted. Following this, Squirrel was very happy that they became brother-in-laws. Squirrel and Petra said that Past can consider them his older siblings, but Past wasn't ready yet. In the evening, Liko appeared, and she thought that he didn't like her. Past replied he is happy to be engaged with her. Liko said she made some sweets and wanted to share with Past. Past tasted the self-baked cookie of Liko, and he was surprised. Suddenly Past said, "They are delicious," and his words made Liko very happy. She smiled, and Past decided to protect her smile for the rest of his life. A few days later, we see Casserole, who told his wife that he might have to confess to her. Agnes thought he made another extravagant purchase, said she will never get mad over something like that. Suddenly Casserole said he had a new girl in his life, and Agnes was shocked to hear his words. She misunderstood his words and she thought Casserole cheated on him. Following this, Casserole said the girl is a beauty and from a high-ranking family. Agnes was shocked and she couldn't believe that Casserole cheated on him. He cleared up the misunderstanding and she learned that Past was engaged. As a result, she acted weird and she was happy by the news to get a daughter-in-law. Then we see Millie and she learned about the engagement of the House Morteln with the family Hubarek. Her servant reported that Past is engaged with Hubarek's daughter Liko. This is how Millie learned that the engagement after the kidnapping was to prove Liko's chastity. Millie's servant wondered if the Hubareks intended to dissolve the engagement after memories of the incident faded, but Millie thought they got another plan and Sebastian realized what they had planned. Millie said that Lord Huberek is clever, and by marrying the Morteln family, he keeps the appearance of not abusing his power. Also, she realized that Huberek believes the fief of Morteln has the potential to grow into bountiful one. Then she said Casserole's 9-year-old son was the mastermind behind it all. She said they can't underestimate Past, because the last time Past conducted the negotiations. As a result, she believed that Lord Huberek noticed Past's potential too. Then, we see Past put packages down, and his friends asked him what he had ordered. Past said he asked Lord Cadillac for support and he gave him an Amazon gift card. So Past was able to order new trees, because he got the intention to make a lot of sweets. Past explained them, the trees help them to make honey and he will create many sweets. They couldn't wait to plant their saplings, and Lumi knew they need to find the right place. Following this, Marka asked him how he planned to watering his trees. Past replied, he will find a way because he looked forward to make many sweets in the future. Then Lumia asked about his plan and Past said he will build a reservoir. Past started to explain his friends that he needs build a big reservoir to collect a huge amount of water. In the meantime, Casserole and Fitz calculated the profits and expenses. Fitz told his friend Casserole the earning report said they ended for the first time with profits. As a result, Casserole was touched by his words and couldn't believe that their efforts were finally rewarded. Fitz said his son played a huge role in that, and Casserole was proud of his beloved son. Then Fitz said he will give him good news and bad news. Casserole learned the new village has gathered over 40 settler applicants. Then Casserole asked about the new retainers, and Fitz replied, Gaglari is showing them the ropes. After that, Casserole asked about the bad news, and he learned his son planned a new project with his friends. Casserole feared that his son would do something dangerous again and wanted to see him immediately. Followed we see Past and his friends. They looked at a huge rock. Suddenly Past used his magic power and he powered up his fist. Past hit the huge rock and he caused a shockwave with his power punch. He was glad that he secretly replicated Strudel's magic, because with his new power, he became the next One Punch Man. Then Past acted weird, and he was excited to replicate more magic powers in his future. Luna and Marka thought he got insane, and wondered why he was so happy. Following this, he destroyed the whole ground and caused many explosions. A few moments later, he was finished with his work, and his friends couldn't believe to see the huge hole. Then he explained, he planned to collect the rainwater, and as the trees grew, they will act as reservoirs themselves. Following this, Past dreamed to make sweets, but his friends told him to open his eyes. Past saw his father, who was angry at him. He knew he screwed up and tried to explain himself. However, Casserole was furious and he punished the 3 kids. Later, Millie was still concerned over the Morteln's heir, and she said she would do the same like Lord Huberek if she had a daughter of her own. Millie was angry and couldn't believe that the 2 high-ranking nobles teamed up with Casserole and Past. Then her butler made jokes and said she should marry him by herself. Suddenly she got a great plan and told her servant she will try it. A month later, all villagers saw the reservoir created by Past. They all admired Past, because he built a reservoir faster than anyone else. Following this, Past showed up, and he was glad that they got all the saplings planted. Suddenly Josie told him letter arrived, and it seemed fairly urgent. Past learned he got a letter from Count Ritus, and they were all confused. She invited Past to a tea tasting ceremony and looked forward to see him. After that, we see the new retainer Niccolo, who was overwhelmed with the paperworks. Fitz told Niccolo it's the fault of the little demon. At that moment, Past appeared, and Fitz told the new retainer that if he had any complaints, he could take them to the little demon. Following this, he asked about the whereabouts of his father, because he got an invitation from Count Ritus. Suddenly his father appeared behind him, and he heard about the invitation to the tea tasting ceremony. He said they can talk about it later, and Liko showed up. However, Past said he is happy to see her, and Fitz teased him a little bit. Past learned that his fiancée will live with him, and he was surprised. After a short moment he realized what had happened, and he was shocked about the news. Then we see Marka playing on the river with his friends, and Lumi showed up. She told them that Past's fiancée will stay in the village for a while. Following this, Past showed Liko his favorite place, and she learned about his hobby. We then see Huberek being questioned about his plan for letting his daughter live with the Morteln family. He replied that Count Ritus was planning something, and he was sending his daughter Liko to the Mortels to accompany Past to the ceremony. Then we see Past, and he wanted to bake delicious sweets for the tea ceremony. Liko thought he was planning on baking cookies, but she was wrong. Past replied that he wanted to try something new, and he planned to use the bonkas. She was very curious about his creation, and she could smell the sweet aroma as it heated. So Liko found out that he was making a dessert, and he was excited to show her his latest candy creation. He then poured the heated sugar into a metal tray, and Liko realized that Past was having a lot of fun. So Past gave his candies the finishing touches and shaped them into cute animals. Finally, he formed a beautiful flower and explained to her that making sweets is very important in his life. At that moment, she realized how great Past is and was happy to get to know the different sides of him. Suddenly, she could feel Past's passion and saw his land full of sweets. Meanwhile, Past was watched by his family and friends. Marka tried to stop them from watching him, but they were curious. After that, he coated a bonka with the candy, and he created candied bonkas. Past asked Liko if she would like to try one. She tasted his candidate bonka, and was amazed by Past's creation. Then Past went to open the door, and he knew all along that his family was spying on them. His mother and sister fled, leaving Marka and Luna behind. Past planned to share his candy with his friends as well, but because they eavesdropped on him, he decided to give it to his father and Fitz. Later, Fitz asked Casserole if the newbie can really handle it. Casserole replied that Niccolo would take good care of the 2 children, but Fitz was still worried. Casserole trusted his son, and believed that he would not cause any trouble at the tea party. In the following days we see Past and Liko at the tea ceremony of Count Ritus. After that, he discovered a picture that he had given Millie last time. Past was then greeted by Millie's servant. Carton welcomed him to the tea ceremony, and Past thanked him for the invitation. Then Past understood that they had ulterior motives, and he planned to promote the fief of Morteln's specialties. In addition, he introduced his fiancée Liko. Following this, Past introduced himself to the nobles and told them all that he had brought a gift for them. The nobles tried his sweets, and they were surprised by the delicious taste. Carton also got to try his candy, and he was overwhelmed by the flavor and never wanted to eat anything else again. Afterwards, he said that he had made a lot of samples and that the guests could show their friends his sweets. Suddenly, Millie appeared and she asked Past about his idea. Then she met his fiancé, and Liko was nervous and scared because of Millie. Then Millie asked if he wanted to talk to her privately about business, and he agreed. She asked Liko to stay with the other guests during this time, and Liko was worried. Past told Liko that everything will be fine. Past went into a private room with Millie, and she wanted to talk with him about business. She asked what Past was up to, and wanted to know about his business. So Past showed her his homemade candies, and asked her to try one. Millie was surprised by the taste of his candy, and she could taste honey in it. Then Past said he hopes to someday produce all the ingredients in their fief. Millie learned about his plan, that he expects to be able to mass-produce these candies within 3 years. She then understood why he wanted to exempt the traders from taxes, and she wondered if there was more to it. Subsequently, Millie said that she was willing to help him because she understood that Past could become very powerful. Meanwhile, Carton said that Past is a promising boy and many women will fall in love with him in the future. Liko was frightened at the thought of Past falling in love with another woman and was sad. Carla and Niccolo tried to cheer up Liko, but their attempt failed. A short time later, Past returned to the main hall with Millie, and she asked him about Liko. Millie noticed that he is really in love with Liko, and she teased him a bit. Suddenly Liko appeared, and she saw Past being hugged by Millie. Past knew his situation looked strange, and Millie was happy that her plan worked. So Liko was in shock after seeing them both, and she ran away. Carla asked him what he did with Millie, and Past said he will explain everything to her later. So Past looked for his fiancée so that he could explain the misunderstanding to her. Once outside, Liko cried because her feelings were hurt. Suddenly she apologized, and Past said that Millie only sees her as a little child. Liko told him that all the women in the Great Hall were talking about him, and it made her imagine awful things. She believed that Past could no longer love her, because for him, she is an unsuitable woman who cannot communicate with others. Past said that despite her problems with speaking, she is a great person. He also said that he likes her very much and couldn't imagine anyone else as a fiancé. He then asked Liko to wait for him and he teleported home. So Liko waited for her prince and he returned a short time later. Past had made a candied banka and said it was special. Then Liko saw his gift for him, and she discovered the engraved heart, and she understood that was Past's way to show his feelings for her. Liko took a bite of the banka, and she remembered the good times she had spent with Past. Afterwards, she started crying tears of joy, and she said that she is very happy. Then Past proved that he got Riz and said the apples are also called apple of love. She understood his message, and could see Past's love in the candy apple. Past also asked if she would forgive him again, and that he would try to make her happy forever. She forgave Past and apologized for causing him problems. In that moment, Past decided to spend his whole life with Liko and tried to kiss her. Unfortunately, his kiss was interrupted by Carla, and Niccolo was amazed that he was a real player. Afterwards, Past learned that the two of them had been watching him the whole time. Past couldn't believe he was watching him, and he wanted to punish Niccolo. Followed, Carla glared at Past and he could feel her glare. In the evening, he returned home and his mother missed him. Agnes didn't want to let him go, and Casserole tried to save his son. Agnes then smiled at Liko because she saw Past teleporting home and making a gift for Liko in the kitchen. She was excited to hear all the details about her son's love life and dragged Past into the house. Niccolo was surprised that Agnes is even more threatening than Carla, and Liko giggled. 2 hours later, we see Past released by his mother, and Fitz offered him Arizona tea. Then Fitz spotted papers on the table and was told that he had printed pictures on them. Fitz learned that Past wanted to use them as wrapping paper for the candy to get revenge on Millie. A few days later, Millie found out about the wrapping paper and she was angry. She couldn't believe that all the nobles received the sweets and she heard bad rumors about herself. Carton told her that as a result, she received many marriage requests from little boys since then. Then we see Huberek, who was reported that Margrave Luderout had made his first move. Huberek learned that his enemies planned to invade his territory, and Huberek asked his retainer to call for reinforcements in the capital. A few days later, Past counted his winnings on the candies he sold. Fitz congratulated him on reaching his goal, and there was still money left over for him to pocket. So Fitz asked what he wanted to do with the money, and he learned that Past planned to buy 100 goats. The reason for the goats was that Past intended to produce milk to bake delicious dishes. Then Fitz remembered that they once tried to breed them themselves, but their land was too barren back then. Meanwhile, Past planned to buy more chickens, and Fitz wanted to turn them into chicken nuggets. Past rejected his idea because he needs the eggs to make more sweets. As a result, Fitz was amazed that the sweets was the only thing he cared about. Then Fitz pointed out that they didn't have enough workers for breeding, and he wanted to solve the problem later. Following this, he asked Fitz if he could try a sugar syrup, and he was surprised by the incredible sweetness. Past wanted to develop his recipe even further, and Fitz wished him good luck with his work. A few days later, Past and his friends were putting something together, and Liko showed up. She asked Past what he was doing, and he replied that he was building a juicer. His friends then filled the ingredients into the juicer, and Marka had problems operating his machine. Lumi supported Marka, and they tried to produce juice together. Suddenly they started arguing with each other, and Marka complained that he no longer had any strength. Marka stumbled, and they destroyed the juicer. Then Past asked if they were both okay, and tried to find a solution to his problem. Liko had an idea, but she was afraid that her idea wouldn't be helpful. Past said she doesn't have to worry if her idea is bad, because success is often made up of many failures. Then she said that her family makes wine, and they use a strange machine to do it. Past thought the idea was great, and thanked Liko for her help. Following this, Lumi and Marka were angry, and Lumi forgave him because Past promised to bake her sweets. Afterwards, Past planned to talk to Fitz about the juicer, and his friends wished him good luck. On the way to Fitz, he was looking forward to baking lots of delicious sweets with the goats. When he arrived at his father's office, he asked how Duke Cadlec and Squale were doing. They had bad news, and they told Past that there was war between Lord Huberek and his neighbor. In the days that followed, Past was whisking eggs, and his father thought he was building muscle. Suddenly Past showed that he had not built any muscles at all, and he was very proud of his slim arm. He explained that he doesn't build muscle because sweets are just fat and carbohydrates, and his father forced him to eat real food too. Afterwards, Casserole explained that Hubarek had received a declaration of war from his neighbor Luderut. Meanwhile, Luderut reported that his plan to spread false rumors had worked. Then, they discussed the plan, and they believed that Lord Hubarek will face them alone. Suddenly a soldier appeared, who reported that Squale was stationed in the Margravat, and Luderut showed an evil smile. Later Liko showed up in the kitchen, and she noticed that Past was acting strange. Past tried not to worry her, but she knew about the war between her family and the neighbors. Then Liko said that she hates war too, and she wondered why people want to fight each other. Liko said that instead of waging war, they could make delicious sweets that make people smile. As a result, the world would be peaceful, and Past agreed to it. After that, Past found out that the merchant no longer had any goats because a nobleman had bought them all. The merchant apologized and said he was threatened to sell all his goats to him. Then Past learned that Baron Lunsveig was the culprit. Fitz thought that the Hubarek family could help, but Casserole replied that they can't ask him because he's busy. Suddenly Past became angry, and he could not accept that the war prevented him from producing sweets. Casserole and Fitz tried to calm him down and said that he shouldn't be angry. He told his son that the Barony Lunsveig was closer to the front lines of the war. So Past learned that the Baron only bought the goats to ensure food for his residents. Casserole said he will get another chance to buy goats. At that moment, Past remembered Liko's words and wished that the war would stop. Suddenly Fitz had an idea for his problem, and Past understood that as reinforcements they could end the war. Casserole liked the idea, and they were able to rush in for reinforcements because Past is engaged to Liko. Meanwhile, Past decided to end the war to get his goats to make sweets. In the days that followed, Casserole and Past set out to support Hubarek. So Marka wanted to accompany them, but Lumi said he would only be a burden. Agnes noticed that Liko was worried and said that Past will come home safely. Meanwhile, Past was determined to end the war in order to bake Liko cheesecakes. Then we see Squale worshipping the image of Petra. She appreciated his compliments, and he couldn't resist her cuteness. Suddenly Hubarek appeared, and he was teasing his son-in-law after seeing Squale flirting with his daughter. Then Hubarek was reported that the enemy only consisted of 10,000 soldiers, and he wanted to use Squale on the front-line defense. Petra was worried about Squale, and she was against the decision. Squale didn't want to worry Petra, and said that he would go to the frontline defense immediately. Following this, Lord Luderot was reported that their army was showing signs of fatigue. He replied that it's not bad, because his real goal is to tear Hubarek and Cadlic apart. So he said that Squale is on the front lines and he plans to kill him. As a result, Petra would lose her fiancé, and Hubarek would lose power. Meanwhile, Squale rode to the front line and he couldn't allow himself to lose because he wanted to protect Petra. We then see Past and Casserole, who have arrived to help Hubarek's family. Hubarek was very grateful for the help, and Past spilled the secret that he only wanted the goats. Then they were told about the enemy's fighting forces and learned about the positions of the soldiers. Casserole noticed something was wrong and Past agreed with him. So Past said that the enemies had positioned themselves to provoke an attack from the opposing army. Then they thought about what the enemies were looking for. Casserole found out that the enemies will attack the front line first. Meanwhile, Hubarek was shocked after he realized that he sent his son-in-law to his grave. Past and Casserole learned that Squale was in danger and they went off to rescue him. Then we see Squale and he has been reported that the enemies have been spotted. He led the soldiers into battle and they charged towards the enemies. Suddenly Squale was told that they were being ambushed and the enemy soldiers appeared. They were more than expected and slaughtered Squale's troops. Squale was shocked and he ordered the soldiers to flee into the forest. So Squale tried to escape into the forest, but more soldiers appeared and tried to murder him. Lord Casserole rushed to Squale's aid and he said that they must prepare to fight. We then see Squale, who was surrounded by enemies. He realized he was being lured into a trap and couldn't escape. Squale remembered Petra's smile and he didn't want to give up. At the last moment Glagari appeared, and he attacked the soldiers with arrows. Then Squale discovered Casserole, who arrived as reinforcements and defeated all enemy soldiers. Past was happy that Squale is alive, and he said he doesn't have to worry anymore. So Casserole and his retainers defeated all enemy soldiers in a short moment. After the fight, Squale was relieved that Casserole saved him and realized that without the support, he would have died. In the evening, Luderoot was informed that Squale had been rescued by the Morteln family. He also learned that the Cadlic family might send reinforcements. In the following morning, Hubarek apologized to Squale for almost sending him to his grave. Then Casserole said that Squale performed splendidly, but he was angry with himself. Past noticed that something was bothering Squale and Hubarek thought he was just tired. Petra then showed up and asked if he was hurt. She was happy that nothing bad happened to him. Then she also noticed that something was wrong with Squale, and he wanted to be alone for a while. Hubarek was worried about his son-in-law, and Casserole said he is still processing the fight. Casserole said that for the Duke's heir, who commands the royal capital's military, it was a necessary experience. Then Petra got worried because she saw the sad look on his face. She wondered what she could do to cheer him up. Suddenly Casserole asked how Past cheered up his friends after the bandit incident and he remembered the day. At that moment, Past remembered Liko's words and wanted to create sweets that would make people smile. Past had an idea, and his father already suspected that he wanted to make a dessert. Then Casserole said that he was entrusting him with the task, and Petra thanked him for the help. In the following days, Past received all the ingredients he requested, and he wanted to implement his plan to make Squale smile again. In the meantime, Hubarek toasted his victory and poured wine for the nobles. Past was busy baking and Casserole discovered the sad Squale. Below we see Past, and he was almost finished with his new creation. Casserole cheered Squale up, and the nobles gossiped about her inability. Casserole gave them advice, and Past heated the prepared cake in the oven. Hubarek then appeared, and he said that he was also scared during the first campaign. But Squale couldn't forgive himself for the fact that many soldiers died because of his inexperience. Afterwards, Past showed up and tried to put a smile on his face with sweets. Past thanked him for allowing him to use Hubarek's kitchen and presented his creation. Squale was amazed by the amazing aroma, and Past revealed his cake. All the nobles have never seen a cake like Past's, and he cut a piece for his friend. Past said his cake is called One Piece, because after one piece everyone starts smiling. This is how Squale found out that he baked the cake from a devil fruit that looks like bonkas. Then Squale tried a piece, and he was amazed by the delicious dessert. Past was able to cheer up Squale and he wanted to know more about it. Past said that it was a failure because the original plan was to make small muffins. At that moment, Squale remembered his failure and his family were worried. Past had studied psychology, and he explained that the cake was a miracle that came about through failure. This almost helped Past cheer up his friend, but he remembered his grandfather's words. Suddenly Petra appeared, and he remembered the promise to her. Then he said that he felt guilty because he was the only one able to return. Petra said he has nothing to be ashamed of and she is glad he came back alive. However, Squale understood Petra's feelings, and he thanked them both. Past was happy that he could cheer up Squale with his cakes, and they went outside to share a piece of cake. Later, Past indicated that he worked a lot. As a result, he was allowed to choose a reward, and he already knew what he wanted. A few days later, Past arrived home and he brought many goods with him. Past said Hubarek showed his gratitude and had a letter for Liko. Afterwards, Fitz learned that Casserole was leading the negotiations and that he wanted revenge on Baron Lunsvig. Past was also angry, and Fitz also found out about Past's plan to reclaim all the goats. Casserole then returned, and he took Past with him to support him in his project. A moment later, Fitz was shocked that he had received so many animals. Casserole was happy, and Fitz was scared by his friend's evil smile. Then we see Past, and he was planning on using his juicer, so his friends poured fruit into it, and he was looking forward to the juice. Past then found out that Liko was invited to the royal capital, and they were choosing clothes for Liko. Agnes told Past that they couldn't find a suitable dress, and Past asked why his father wasn't being sent to the city. Liko managed to convince Past with her cute smile, and he said that he is going to the city. As a result, he visited a tailor and he picked out clothes for Liko. A few months later, we see Liko visiting Past in the kitchen. He showed her lots of sweets and she was allowed to eat his delicious cheesecake. In the following days, Liko had a lot of fun with everyone, and Hubarek missed his daughter. Liko also wrote that she learned a lot from Past in the kitchen, and they cooked delicious sweets every day.